Hi, I'm Daniel Stair of Daniel's Training Services, and I provide training and consulting services on the management of waste and also on the transportation of hazardous materials. The purpose of this video is to explain USEPA's new and temporary policy that allows hazardous waste generators to exceed their normal on-site accumulation time limits. Okay, so before we get into that, a couple things. I'm going to be summarizing some complex regulations in this video. I've written an article on this subject with more information and links to more relevant information. So I encourage you, if you're interested in this video, to go to that article. I will have a link to that article on my blog in the description of this video. So watch the video, then go to the article, read that through. Keep in mind these regulations do change. As a matter of fact, this whole video and the article is based on a temporary policy of the EPA, which is in effect as of April 28th, 2020, today's date, but could change, could be removed by EPA at their discretion. We'll talk more about that. Also, just the regulations in general change over time, so keep that in mind. Also, your state. This specific US EPA temporary policy indicates that states may take a different approach under their own authorization. So if your state has its own authorized hazardous waste program, I'll have a link in the description more about that. But if your state has its own authorized hazardous waste program, it may take a different approach than this federal one. But from the policy, the feds are strongly encouraging states to follow along with this federal policy. So it's likely your state is going to follow this federal policy, but you got to check, okay? And of course, do your own research. Don't rely entirely on what you see in this video. In the end, it's up to you as the generator of the waste to comply with the regulations. And I'll also have my standard RCRA disclaimer video up there. You can take a look at that. Okay, a couple things about this. Now, as I stated before, all the information in this video is based on a temporary policy of the US EPA due to the current COVID-19 public health emergency, okay? So that temporary policy was announced on March 26th, 2020. It was made retroactive to March 13th of 2020, and it is in effect until US EPA says so. They did not set an end date for it. What they did indicate is that they will post a notification, so that'd be on their website, at least 7 days prior to terminating this temporary policy. So how long is it going to be in effect? We don't know, okay? If you're going to take advantage of the enforcement discretion in this policy, then I highly encourage you to bookmark the EPA's website and go there every morning and check and see if they're going to announce the ending of this temporary policy. All right, but right now it's in effect, okay? No indication that it's not. So there is that time limit. Again, your states as well. States may not follow this enforcement discretion of the US EPA. They may choose to be more strict, though again, EPA is strongly encouraging all states to follow them on this. And I think most will, as you'll see. Now, something else we have to understand when we're talking about hazardous waste generators. There are, under the federal regulations, 3 different hazardous waste generator categories. You got your large quantity generator, your small quantity generator, and your very small quantity generator. That's at the federal level, okay? And those generators have different on-site accumulation time limits. A large quantity generator is allowed to accumulate hazardous waste on-site for no more than 90 days. Small quantity generators are allowed to accumulate hazardous waste on site for no more than 180 days, and they can extend that out to 270 days if the disposal facility that they must go to is greater than 200 miles away, okay? Very small quantity generator, no time limit at all. So we're really only talking about the large quantity generator, 90 days, and the small quantity generator, basically 180 days, right? Now, the question is, under the current circumstances, maybe you can't arrange for off-site transportation of your hazardous waste. Maybe those 90 or 180 day limits are looming for you. What are you going to do? Well, the answer to the question is, can you get an extension to that on-site accumulation time limit? And the answer is yes. And there really are two reasons for it. One already current in the regulations, and then one new due to the COVID-19 public health emergency. So first off, in the federal regulations for both the large quantity generator and the small quantity generator, there was an existing allowance for them to get a 30-day extension to their standard time limits for unforeseen, temporary, and uncontrollable circumstances. So that was already in the regs. That allowed for, natural disasters and who knows what sorts of things prior to this, where a generator may not be able to get their hazardous waste off-site in time. So that's built right into the regs that you can request a 30-day extension from the federal EPA or your state. If your state has an authorized hazardous waste program, you can request that 30-day extension, and given the current circumstances, you would probably get that. But it's even better, okay? Under EPA's temporary enforcement discretion policy in light of COVID-19, okay? And there's a link to that in my article. So you're going to want to look at that EPA policy in full. But the relevant portion to what we're talking about here reads, if a facility is a generator of hazardous waste and, due to disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, is unable to transfer the waste off-site within the time periods required under the regulations, the facility should continue to properly label and store such waste and take, and I'm paraphrasing here, take some basic precautions as far as not violating any regs unless they have to, make every effort to comply with the regs. If compliance is not practical, minimize the effects and the duration of non-compliance and return to compliance as quickly as possible, okay? If you do that, then they will not enforce the regulations for the on-site accumulation time limits. So just take some basic precautions, make sure the waste is stored safely, get it indoors if you can, keep it in containment if you can, that sort of stuff. But under some basic general conditions, because of this temporary policy, then they will not enforce at the federal level, they will not enforce the on-site accumulation time limits for your generator category. Now again, check with your state on that one. States are supposed to follow along with this. I think most are, but a state can be more strict than the federal, and they may choose not to offer that extension. Also, keep in mind, this is not an excuse to pollute. Some people have interpreted, unfortunately, EPA's policy, this temporary policy, that way, and it is not. Damage to the environment, harm caused to people, you still will be punished for that. They will still find that out. They're simply giving you a break from some of these routine measures. Again, you still have a responsibility to protect the environment and protect public health and all of that, okay? Okay, you may also be aware that there are on-site accumulation volume limits. Besides the time limits, there are volume or quantity limits for certain hazardous waste generators. And I'm going to have a video on that. You can check out a link right here, okay? So if you're a very small quantity generator or a small quantity generator, you also have volume limits, and those also are affected by COVID-19. And I'll give you a little hint, okay? The temporary policy addresses that as well, all right? But check out my video, all right, for the full story on that one. So I highly encourage you, if you need this extension, to contact your regional USEPA or your state if your state has an authorized hazardous waste program. Link to that in the description, okay? Other than that, make sure you do your own research, stay in compliance as much as you can, and return to compliance as soon as you are able. If you can make arrangements for an off-site transport of the hazardous waste, by all means do so, okay? And remember to keep records and document all of this so that you can back it up later. Okay, so again, thank you for watching this video. I hope to have more out soon regarding particularly the EPA regulations and COVID-19 and other federal regulations affected by this current public health emergency. Please stay in compliance. Please contact me if you have any questions, and please stay safe. Thank you.